This is hands and knees breathing against the wall. Actually quite tricky to master, so check out the cues and let's do it together. You can grab a yoga block or a small ball to place between the legs to activate those adductors or inner thighs to help you connect with the front line of your abdominals in this position. So a couple things with setup. I like placing the feet against the wall for a reference point, thinking about shoulders over wrists, knees under hips. First, start with our setup by looking at the pelvis. So you can kind of rock back and forth because ultimately we don't want to be in one excessive position or the other. So find a place where you're right about the middle and your sits bones, those bony bones that you sometimes sit on, are shining straight towards the wall behind you. We want to keep our pelvis open and not overly tuck or be too extended in the low back. Placing the feet against the wall is a great reference for keeping that position. Then I have my shoulders over my wrists, and when I'm going into my breathing, I want to make sure I don't roll to the outsides of my hands. I want to think about pushing actively through my hand, specifically that inside part of the hand. And as I push, I'm going to think about, instead of being down here and hanging on my joint of the shoulder, I'm going to think about pushing the floor away from me, but without overly rounding into an angry cat. In this position, I'm typically dropping my chest wall. I might be overusing these rectus six-pack muscles, and I'm essentially closing off the front of the chest. So we want to tune in so that we are pushing, almost like our rib cage is coming closer to the ceiling behind us, and maintaining that push and that pelvis position through the entire breath cycle. Also tuning into the head, keeping your eyes on the horizon, watching that you're not overly looking up, which is going to place extra stress on the neck. So if you are using the yoga block, you can place it between the legs. And in this position, I'm going to think about inhaling and expanding the back side of my rib cage, almost like I'm inflating like a balloon, and my rib cage is coming up towards the ceiling while I maintain this push, utilizing a muscle called the serratus. It's like my rib cage is almost coming behind my pelvis area to an extent, but not overly flexing. So I'm maintaining that push. I'm adding that nice inhalation. And then on the exhale, if I want to squeeze the block, I can, but I'm maintaining the push and the rib cage position as I exhale. And envision the front lower ribs kind of coming together and closing like a book on the front side. So I'm keeping that push. Inhale. And exhale. Inhales are through the nose, exhales are long and soft and audible out the mouth, like you're fogging up a mirror. And the important part is you maintain that push through your exhalation. Another thing, sometimes we inch towards the wall. Stay forward in that all fours position with your shoulders over your wrists. If you find you're having a hard time shutting off these chest muscles and feel like you want to crunch down a little bit, sometimes you can take your hands just a tiny bit wider. Which can keep those chest muscles kind of relaxed a little bit. So this is where we're just going to take our breaths. Now inhale again. All the air out. Inhale again. Make sure you're not clenching on your booty. And you can be squeezed in the yoga block. So try for about 5 to 10 breaths, take a break. You can do 2 sets. Know that this takes practice, and it's hard enough in itself to hold ourselves up. So I'll also have another video that shows some tips in case you're having wrist pain or other discomforts in performing this movement.